This week we're going to further our understanding of how to light a scene by studying the people who shape the light. This basically being the grip department, the third department in our triad under the director of photography. Of course, there's the camera operators and then there are people handling the light, but the people who shape the light, who bounce the light, are the grips. And so under the director of photography, the grip department has the key grip as the person in the key position, the head of that department, and the best boy underneath the key grip, who of course is taking care of the inventory and fixing any equipment, and then the grips below the best boy. And we also have rigging grips, just like we have rigging electricians too, who get just a little more money for hauling stuff up heights. And right below the best boy in pay scale is the dolly grip, which we'll be talking about in the next lecture, but also a better paying position because they have to handle the dolly on which the camera sits, so it means that it's a little more delicate and has more tension with it. So here we have what grips deal with to diffuse and cut the light all the time. These are called flags. We have what we call a flag sandwich, which means you'll have a solid, which is on the left, and then you'll have a silk, which is the yellow right next to it, which diffuses the light very, very, very broadly. And then next, not so diffuse, but cutting it down with a net, a double net, is the red bordered flag, and then the single net is the green bordered flag, which cuts the light down by a single net, not a double net, so it's not as blocked. This piece of equipment is what we call a grip head. This grip head takes the flags, and you can see the hole where the flag would insert in order to set it up in a scene, and the flags are set up in a scene on C-stands. And so we see an arm on a C-stand here. These are called century stands because they were, many years ago, manufactured by the Century Company. So century stands, C-stands, hold the flags. They put on the grip head, you grip the flag, and then you set it on your century stand to raise or lower it. Here's an example of a flag being used in a bar scene. We've got a silk on a century stand diffusing a bunch of lights behind it so that she is not blowing out the picture but very easily seen against the dark backdrop. Here's another silk. This would be probably a 6x6 silk, and it's, as you can see, on a couple of C-stands on a frame, and it's going to diffuse the light for whoever's walking in that scene. And you'll see a number of grip things all lying around there, like those orange sandbags and the ladders and the grips there work with rope. If you're a grip in the business, you really need to know your knots. You're always tying things like this big silk diffusion, and you're tying things down all the time. So you need to know 3 basic knots. You need to know the clove hitch, your bow line, and the trucker's hitch. Here we see another good example of diffusion, only this is a 12x silk that's over a car against a green screen, so they'll be dropping something in the background, some exterior probably. But look at what the grips department's done. Is they've put their C-stands with big grip heads to hold the 12x frame, and then they're pouring, the electrical department's pouring light through on top, and the grip is just, the department's blocking the light that it's diffused on one end, blocking it on the left end so that it won't reflect off the windshield of the car. Here is a grip doing a scene at sunset, and we're doing kind of a run and gun kind of photo shoot here. You only need one guy, but he's what we call Hollywooding it. Hollywooding it means you take the flag in your hands because you don't have time or opportunity to put it on a C-stand. So you say, hurry up, we need to diffuse the light, let's just Hollywood it. Here's the bottom of a C-stand. The C-stands are put together in 3 different components, but you take the top part of the C-stand off, you get the base of it, and the base of the C-stand can be used, we call it a turtle stand, for putting things like lights on for low shots, or we could actually put a camera on there. When we're not diffusing light in the grip department, we're blocking it. So we have different sizes of what we call solids made out of duvetine, which is impenetrable fabric that's fire repellent. And we have 4x, 2x, small and large solids that we can put on C-stands. And we have even larger types, and we call this a meat axe, which if we want to block a lot of light, like we just saw in that car next to the green screen. And here we have what we call a 4x4 floppy. We have a 4x4 duvetine solid, and if we peel away the Velcro, it will drop another 4x4 piece of duvetine that's loose, so you can extend it, and it ends up being a 4x8. It can be used for many uses, especially in this use. Here we can see where the camera team wants to be in the shade so they can see what's on the monitor as these bicyclists come past. And when we put a flag like that over the camera team, it's called a courtesy. And in this case, you can use a floppy because it can just block out more light, create a semi-tint. Here we have a small solid, and you can see how the C-stand works. You have the what we call it is a gobo arm, because sometimes we call the grip heads gobos. And so that arm will go in the top of the C-stand, and we can adjust it, and then of course we can put the flag in the grip head and adjust it to blocking out the light. Here we have another piece of grip diffusion. It's called a cucaloris. It's a sheet of wood that has a pattern cut out, and they're using it in this church here. And when you shine light through this pattern, it diffuses it, meaning that it cuts the light with a pattern so it's not as hard, and it gives us some depth with the pattern on the wall. Sometimes they're leaves, but sometimes they're random like this. This cucaloris is C-U-C-O-L-O-R-I-S, cucaloris. And here's how we set it up in a studio. We've got the cuc, as we say in the business, shorthandedly, on a C-stand, and then we have the light stand throwing a pattern against the wall to give it depth to the scene. And this is just a regular, fancy old grip tree. It's got everything thrown into one here. We've got the C-stand with all the flags. You've got your single, which is your green bordered, your double, which is your red bordered. You've got your silk that's white, and you've got your solid that's dark, your grip sandwich. You've got your blue sandbags. You have also apple boxes, which are the domain of the grip department. You have the real thin ones, we call them pancakes, and we have the full size and the half size. And there's different clamps on those, and we'll talk about that in a minute, because we have to give you the derivation of the word grip. Grips comes from early in the 20th century, when they were fixing things on set and had to build all these things with clamps and speed rail. They had a bag that they brought with them with all their tools. It was called a grip, because back in those days, luggage was always called a grip. You brought your grips with you and full of clothes. This is a grip bag full of tools. Now it's a grip box here full of tools for the grip department. A lot of clamps, a lot of we have about 15 different varieties for clamping lights, cameras, diffusion. On top, the big orange one is your basic grip clamp. These babies here, simple grip clamps where you can just quickly take your bounce board of diffusion and adhere it to something. This is a baby pin. A baby pin screws into, or just it slides into different stands and different camera. If you have a light that takes a baby pin, it can just slip on, or a camera can slip on the baby pin. A lot of things can just slip on the baby pin, and we tighten it, and that is part of the Lego system of making a movie. And so you need to know the baby pin, basically, because a lot of the clamps that the grip department uses are modified baby pins. This is a Cardellini clamp, Cardenelli, Cardellini, which has a baby pin at the bottom, but it's adjustable on the top. So we could put that baby pin in a C-stand, and then we could adjust the clamp to put another rod, or we could put it on a banister, or whatever we were adhering it to, so that the baby pin could then carry the flag or the lamp. This is a similar clamp. It's called a Mayfer clamp, M-A-Y-F-E-R. It's just like the Cardellini, only the baby pin at the bottom can be slipped out. So you don't need it to hold something like a flag or a light. You can just push the button and it slides out, and then you just have the clamp for whatever you need to tighten, whether it's on a railing or not. When grips aren't adhering flags to C-stands to block or cut the light or diffuse it, like they're bouncing it so we can intensify the light at certain places where we don't want shadows, like this gentleman's doing here with this model. He's using what we call a flexi-fill. Commonly used are reflector boards, 4x, silver-sided, that have adjustable dials on them so we can adjust the angle of reflection. Here, these are less adjustable. These would go on C-stands. We have a silver and a gold. The gold reflector, commonly known in the business as an Elvis, and the silver, commonly known as a Priscilla. Here's a silver side adjustable reflector board. You can see the lower handle on the lower left, which would stop it at whatever angle you want it. And we call it the soft side because we have the squares a little fringed here. The other side would be silver, would be solid silver, giving you more of a glare, less of a cut. But there's a lot of glare no matter what you do. The main thing to remember is that the gold side is always a little more intense than the silver side. Here we have a basic bounce board, and you can see how this HMI that they're reflecting is how hot it is, how intense that reflection is. Here we have the grip setting up what we call a Grifflon, Gryflon. That's this white piece in the 6x frame, and the Grifflon is plastic coated so that if in case it started raining, you can also use it as a cover, so it keeps out water. It also has a solid side black and a white side to reflect, so you can just twist it around. It would reflect light or it absorbs light. Here we have an example of your silk diffusion in the scene. They're setting things up, and you can see how it just evenly spreads the light over everything, so everybody's going to get the same even fall of light, so nobody's going to glare and stand out. This gentleman, I think, is teaching a class on gripology, and we can see that he's set up to his left, behind him, a silk that's clamped with grip clamps to a frame that's set up on a couple of C-stands, and then behind him to his right is another C-stand with a simple bounce board, and farther to the right you can see the 4x silver reflector board showing, and so he's using instruments that we use all the time. This is where you get these instruments in a grip and electric shop. It's all lined up. We have the grip cart that has the bounce boards, the flags on it. We have the C-stand cart. We have two black and the black and the blue cart. They are for carrying heavy cable or sandbags, so that you can get more put on the cart to get quicker to the set. Here are a number of C-stands, as we say, soldiered up. We soldier them to line them up so we can quickly grab them off the truck, where these gentlemen are taking a break, shining a little light on the reflector board. You can see the sandbags on those C-stands, and one of the things, we always throw a sandbag. And when we set up a C-stand, we always throw it on because they easily tipped over. And the general rule is that you put the sandbag on the highest leg, so that how you adjust it won't fall over.